If you spent some time in a grocery store lately, you've probably come across shelf space dedicated to food specifically made for those with different eating restrictions. I'm talking about peanut-free, dairy-free, soy-free, all those little items bolded on the bottom of products that most of us neglect to read. But there is actually one section that is growing just a bit faster than all the others, and unsurprisingly, it's gluten-free. There's been a trend here in the United States over the past few years that paints the gluten-free diet as a panacea, a type of cure-all to a variety of harmful health conditions. Pop culture has latched onto this idea, claiming the removal of gluten generates fat loss, prevents diabetes and cancers, and generally improves physical well-being. The height of the fad in the eyes of the media was in mid-2014 among the rise of conversations regarding the existence of an idea of a gluten intolerance that produced no visible biomarkers or physical deteriorations like other gluten-triggered illnesses on the spectrum. In the span of just 4 years, 1.69% of the US population without celiac disease had adopted a gluten-free diet, tripling from its previous mark, fueling a nearly $11 billion gluten-free food industry without consulting medical professionals or certified nutritionists. This was basically self-diagnosing resistance to gluten, which, in short, is bad. A huge fuss has been made over about whether or not the craze of people completely abandoning the gluten on our store shelves was based on scientific evidence or on phony marketing campaigns that brought in lucrative new clients. So, why does this matter? Celiac disease is a devastating chronic condition triggered by the intake of two binding proteins found naturally in most grass-based grains that the body's immune system finds toxic. It's a well-documented ailment, one with clinically backed blood testing procedures with relatively high statistical reliability. But the debate that's going on realistically has little to do with the chronic disease itself, but rather the absence of it. In the early 2010s, after several consensus conferences held throughout the scientific community, what is called non-celiac gluten sensitivity was awarded diagnostic criteria, making it medically recognizable, though not widely accepted. With the release of this decision, the spike in gluten-free diet adopters began. Regardless of the current fad, the condition was first officially described in 1980 when baffled gastroenterologists noticed patients suffering from abdominal pain and chronic diarrhea, which was often incapacitating, without the biochemical defects common in celiac disease being found when consuming gluten-based products. Now, this might not seem like an issue, but it is. The fad has since raised many questions regarding the medical logistics of the condition, leaving NCGS patients virtually in no man's land, without undisputed recognition by specialists who have questioned its prevalence due to false symptom reporting not lining up with documented cases, similar to the overdiagnosis of ADHD, adding insult to injury for the already severe lacking of adequate medical screening. The only way to diagnose it is through exclusion criteria, basically saying it isn't any of these other terrible diseases, which can take years to pinpoint before a successful diet change is made. The risk, though, goes even further than those suffering just from NCGS. Those who remove gluten from their diet without consulting doctors before getting a recommendation to do so have a considerably higher risk of developing type 2 diabetes, according to a study done in early 2017. Still, those who pledge allegiance to the notion that gluten is the new diet villain may be missing the mark on what's to blame entirely. Leading field researchers are beginning to believe that non-celiac gluten sensitivity is misnamed and that the true culprits are what are referred to as FODMAPs, which are short-chain carbohydrates that are poorly absorbed in the small intestine, almost always found alongside gluten. The removal of FODMAPs in a double-blind placebo-based experiment showed that nearly 50% of participants thought to have NCGS did not react to foods containing gluten without the FODMAPs. Of course, more research is needed on the topic. The important message here, though, is simple. Consult your doctor before making an enormous shift in lifestyle. It can be scary facing the unknown without much assistance from professionals, but the scientific community is working on it and can help to pinpoint the cause of your pain. In order to reach a healthful state, we need to work on this one together, one step at a time.